Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you very much for attending this screening of I Am. I will actually cut right to the chase. Today with us we have the director of the film, Tom Shadyac, who's really an ordinary guy who has led a really exciting and interesting journey in life. So from his early days directing films to some life-changing experiences that he underwent, he now created the film that you now see. And so we're very pleased to have him join us today, and he will answer any questions that you may have. And without further ado, here's Tom.
Thank you, my brother Cliff. Could we have a hand for Cliff? I call Cliff now St. Peter because he just toured me around heaven. It's a little overwhelming to come here and see so many incredible things, so much creative energy, so much. It's a look into how things can be. It's a look into how things can be. And I'd love to talk today about why things aren't that way. Why is it that we come to Google and, wow, I can't walk 30 feet without finding a carb. There's a kitchen with carbohydrates. And there's fruit here. And, ooh, I have to pee. It's right here. I can't move without all the necessities of life taken care of. Oh, and there's dogs and babies. It's phenomenal, right? You're well fed, you're well taken care of, you have insurance, you don't have to worry about medical. Why doesn't the world work this way? So I'd love to talk about that because I sense such an incredible spirit here, that's what you're about, is somehow opening up this world. Somehow our collective energy has created you, created this amazing place, not just as an example, but as a source and a starting point for what can be. I don't think you're here by accident. So, talk to me. What do you got? By the way, Yahoo was filled with questions. That's all I'm going to say.
How's it going us today?
Thank you, brother.
Question is,
what is your name?
My name's Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Good to meet you. What do you do here, Jeff? What do you do? They have people that do everything. That person makes sure the grass is all parallel. Okay, good. The grass is parallel. Very nice. What do you do?
You know, I try to get user feedback on the products. So if you have any feedback on Google products, now's the time.
Yeah, I am such a layman. My feedback is awesome. So I use you every day. It's actually an amazing writing tool. As a writer, we used to clear our minds by going to picture books or, do you guys have ever heard this word, encyclopedia? Okay. We would go to books to get other ideas to free our minds. Now we just go on Google and you get filled with info that can turn your creative thought somewhere. So
cool. Yeah, I think we all love working here. We love Google. But my question is really, I think companies like Google, are great and they're rare, but I think they come about, because of this entrepreneurial spirit. So how do you how can you get that spirit and keep kind of the innovation alive at the same time, have companies focus on the community? It seems like there's kind of two things at odds, and I wonder how we can kind of get both.
Yeah, I find that is a part of the cultural malaise, if you will, Jeff, that these things are at odds. So how do we create the entrepreneurial spirit and still have a focus on the community? Does anybody have a thought? Okay, so let's ask ourselves why those two things are mutually exclusive. What is it that you value most in your life? Our culture teaches us that money is the motivator, right? If you don't have the incentive of money, you won't start anything, right? So that calls into question some people that were really inspirational to me. Buddha, for example, walked away from his money, created something beautiful, as Meng, one of your spiritual counselors here knows, created mindfulness, created awareness, created peace. His motivation was to create, to spread love, ideas, truth. Jesus, Gandhi. So we have all these moral leaders who are not motivated by money, and we all know, are the most powerful figures in our lives. Then we look at institutions. My family runs St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. They helped found it with Danny Thomas. Not a thought about money. Not a thought, but the entrepreneurial spirit alive. 90% of the kids, when this hospital started, died when they were diagnosed with cancer. 90% mortality rate. Darn near 90% if I'm plus or minus 1 or 2%. Now it's completely inverted. It's near 90% kids live. And there wasn't a thought about how much money can we make, it's how can we serve? Because those things you go to your graves and your deathbed with are going to be not how much money did I make, it's going to be how much did I serve, did I give back, how creative was I? How was I able to spread and add a value? And yet we have this poison in our culture that says without that money, it all goes away. It's a lie. And we know it through our experience it's a lie, but we don't quite recognize it and walk it. That's why we go to church every Sunday to be reminded, hey, it's all about love, but Monday we close that door, as my father said, and we become about something else. This is the poison. It's compartmentalization, it's separation. Emerson said, integrity means to unify your life so that any drawer I open, you'll see exactly who a person is. So what we need to see in the future is when we open our business drawers, I just see love and compassion and creativity. That's what I see. Just the way you spread information here, we need to spread love. What I really think Google is about is love. That's all I get when I get around here. People love what they do. The love of food, the love of health, the love of community, the love of family, the love of information, freely accessible to the world. How beautiful. And there may be another drawer we can open where love can spread. And that's up to you. I'm going to throw out something very radical, insanely radical. And there may be a laser beam that kills me for saying it. But I'm simply going to quote a poet that challenges all of us. His name is Wendell Barry. Some of you may know him. He's one of the most well-regarded poets. Intellectual property names the deed by which the mind is bought and sold and the world enslaved. Cliff and I were talking about that. Intellectual property names the deed by which the mind is bought and sold and the world enslaved. Hey, it's my idea. Ace Ventura is my idea. Give it to me. That was my idea. And yet I know there's no such thing as my idea. I rest on the backs of all the creativity before me. I am inspired, meaning I am in spirit. Somehow an idea comes to you. And to claim ownership of these things is the poison. To say, wow, I am serving this idea and I offer it to the world is beautiful. And that's the turn, I think, the human species, I think we're starting to make here. So much you offer to the world freely. Where's the laser beam?
They're heavy microphones.
I've believed for a couple of years that there is actually nothing wrong with the world. And everything that is happening is supposed to happen. We are in a perfect state of balance. Now, I understand that had I been fighting in Africa for my life, my beliefs might have been different. But not having to struggle for food every day kind of gives me a different sense, and I might be wrong, but this is what I believe currently. My question is, if we are so connected to the animals and the insects, and if we are a part of nature, then why are we so different? And if we do embrace the philosophy that we should only take what we need and not go out and invent things for the reason of money, how are we going to acknowledge that what's happening to us is not, in fact, evolution, and it's not, in fact, for the reason of the greater and the longer survival of the human species and the life on this planet, for not just reasons of, not defending only against things that are happening like hunger and disease, but bigger calamities that could happen to this planet. How are we not to say that we're not here to protect the planet by inventing things against bigger, planetary things like meteoroids or...
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. Was there, by the way, I'm supposed to repeat this for the internet. The question was, what's the meaning of life? It was a big question because you said a lot of things that are profound that I can and may respond to but may not get to. You said things like you believe that the world is just as it ought to be, right? And you're coming from a place being well-fed. You might feel differently if you were not well-fed. That's a huge thing we could talk about. But now you're saying, are we not to use potentially our technologies as maybe a protector of the planet? And is there something in this film that told you that we ought to not do that? That we ought to not be creative? That we ought to not expand in terms of, I love the colors of these seats. I love the color of the human fabric. I love that each of you is a different experiential model that adds another piece to the mosaic. Who wants a monochromatic world? I don't think whatever created us wants a monochromatic world because he made so many different creative people, right? So I don't think this film is about that. I think this film is about what happens when you create. What do you do with that creativity? What is that? Do we claim ownership of it? Do we share it freely with all that we are? So that love, the most important thing to all of us, love can be spread. And community can be spread. And goodness and the Google campus can be spread. What do we do when we create? I could have easily done everything. I stand by every film I've made, as imperfect as they are. They had ideas and energy I wanted to put into the world. I still stand by that. But I didn't have to stand on top and say, pay me more, I'm worth more. I, as an artist, can serve freely, take what I need and serve. The greatest story I will ever tell, the most powerful story I will ever tell is the one I will tell with my life, not the one you'll see up there. So what story am I telling with my life? That's the question that I have. Gaurav, did this in any way address one of your...
Yeah. While watching the movie, it did challenge a few of my beliefs. Like I always question, why is war wrong? Why does everyone say that war should not happen? In fact, war is happening at all times. Bacteria, we're fighting with bacteria and viruses at all times. In fact, there are hand sanitizers which we're using to kill bacteria at all times. It's happening at every single level.
Can I just, I don't mean to jump in, but I want to, because they can't actually hear you. So are you getting him at all? I have to repeat what you say, so I kind of have to remember. Anyway, about the wars that are going on in bacteria. So that's actually not true. I mean, it's true. The human species, for example, there are less wars. We are evolving into a less violent species. If you read Jeremy Rifkin's Empathic Civilization, you'll see there is this moral progression. Rumi talks about it in his poetry. But the history of biology is not that. Yes, there are, quote, wars and aggression going on all the time, but the history of biology is this. Read Elizabeth Sahtouris. Elizabeth Sahtouris is an evolutionary biologist who said, let's look at life, because life has had 4 billion years, 13 billion if you want to go back to the beginning of the universe, 4 billion years to show us its mandates and dictates. And what she found was this pattern. Single-cell life is the first life to emerge. Very, as you said, warlike, angry, aggressive. Angry, that's a human term, but aggressive, right? It realizes this isn't working through whatever communication it has. It begins talking amongst itself, single cells, and they start cooperating. They get creative. They create nucleated cells. Nucleated cells are young. They do the same thing. Feisty, competitive, aggressive for nutrients, etc. Nucleated cells begin communicating with each other, get creative, and create multicelled creatures, which is us. We are now young. We're a 175,000-year-old species based on 4 billion years, incredibly young. We are now, through places like Google, talking to each other and realizing, hey, this doesn't work. We can behave this way, but does it help us thrive? Which way must we tend as a society? And that's why instantly when a war happens, nobody goes, great, more war. They go, how does this end? How does this end? How does my child come home safe? How does this end? Why are we in another war? Because we are hardwired to thrive in cooperation. So it's how we tend. Everything you say does exist, but it is more the exception than the rule, because life would not go on if it was just one big battle. You know, the simplest example is the lion. It can eat every gazelle. It can take all the gazelles. It can take them down. It eats one. It's full, and everything can live in peace around it. It's gotten what it needed.
All right, so we'll have one question here.
Better. Thanks for coming to visit us. I'm David. Much of what you had to say in your documentary resonated with me, that we're social creatures, that we should have community and be connected with one another and love each other, and that'll give us a greater sense of presence and happiness. So that all, like I said, resonates with me. towards the end of the movie, you were talking about, also the part about how the endless treadmill of wealth accumulation can distract us from enjoying what it is that we should enjoy about life. Towards the end, you seem to be contending that if we redistribute the wealth that we're accumulating to the homeless, that'll solve the problem. And it's probably putting too much on you to try and solve a problem that's never been solved in thousands of years. But I'm not persuaded that the whole root of the issue with the homeless is that we're not redistributing enough resources to them. I feel like resources are available and caring people are available, and yet the problem persists. Is there more to it that I've missed? Do you have any other prescriptions for how we can fix that problem?
Let me get to the meaning of life before I end homelessness. So just to be clear, could you give him the mic back? Your name again was? David. David, you did not see what? You did not see what exactly about homelessness that I was not what? It was too simplistic in my approach to ending homelessness? Yeah. I think it's really simple. I just think it's incredibly simple. I think it's incredibly simple. I think it's not simple that they're issues, the alcoholism, et cetera, which is from a culture that I believe is mentally ill. I wasn't kidding when I called myself mentally ill. Mentally ill person does not operate in reality, does not see things as they are. And so I don't believe I was seeing things as they are when I took so much, much more than I needed. So I find the solution to, the law of the prophets can be summed up in two ways. One will be a sort of a religious sounding thing, love God or whatever that source is, whatever the gift is of life. And the other is love each other. And so it's really simple, but the manifestation of that might be challenging. But if we made a decision today, would it not end? If we as a society made a decision, there is not homelessness in native cultures. It doesn't exist because the tribe, even the crazy guy in the tribe, is kind of enjoyed and laughed at, but he's a part of the tribe. He's fed, he's given a hut. It didn't exist in native cultures. Inflation doesn't exist in native cultures. Price increases don't exist in native cultures. It's a mentality that allows me to ignore that someone I'm actually related to within 2,000 generations, we know that. We all come from the same tribe in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. Someone I actually am related to has somehow fallen on hard times. The number one reason of homelessness, I started a homeless shelter in Charlottesville, Virginia, that's why I know about these things. And the number one reason people are homeless is they don't have the support system that you may have. So they don't have a parent to turn to and go, geez, I had a bad year, I couldn't get a job out of school, or I had I made a mistake, or I have an addiction problem, and they get stuck and they're out. So I see these things as intensely simple, and then the fun starts once we agree to take care of each other.
Hi, I'm Mark. Thank you for sharing your movie with us. I understand that one of your major points is if people understood how everything is connected and we're all connected, that they would work with one another better and care for one another. I've seen, so you showed a few examples like the yogurt and so forth, and I think I've seen a few in a movie called What the Bleep Do You Know? Do We Know, like 10 years ago. I'm sure you've heard of it or seen it. And at the same time, I watch a lot of science shows, I read a lot about science, and there are very few such examples that are given. At least I don't hear or see of many. Like,
examples of what given?
Oh, of everything being connected.
Uh-huh.
And my belief, especially after seeing this, is if there were more and we would hear about more, that people would be more willing to believe and act on that and realize that, yes, everything they do does impact other people. Do you know why there aren't more? And is it difficult?
Yes, there are. There's everywhere. You can't look at something and not say there's connection. But when you're raised in a culture that says that's not true, that you're separate, the basic ideology that you heard in this film is the ideology that you have been taught in our culture, that you're separate. And yet science, we know, if you look at there's no end of me and beginning of you. Everything is intermixed. We all agree that there's such a thing called the butterfly effect, right? We all look at the movie Back to the Future and go, yeah, that's true. Michael J. Fox goes back in time. He does one thing different. He's nice to someone or mean to someone. 20 years later, everything is different in the future. We already know this, right? but we don't want you to see it. Because with that comes an incredible exigency. The exigency of love is intense, much more so than the law of separation. Just take care of yourself. After you take care of yourself, this is the poison. Take care of yourself. Get yourself set up, then you can reach out to the world. There's a mystic named Erwin Kuhl who says something very cool. Everything is God in drag, right? Everything is God in drag. Another divine, beautiful, walking manifestation, another. There's stuff going on inside of that is insane. That same stuff that's going on, rotating, spinning, that same spinning goes on in the Sufi mystic. It's all connected. And when we get that, we'll understand and we'll behave differently. Desmond Tutu said something to me, and I'm writing a chapter of it in the book. I've got a book deal with a group. Not easy writing a book. Desmond Tutu talked about, we talk about something, he is a religious person, but he doesn't speak about it in a religious way. I said, Desmond, what's wrong? What's wrong with the world? He said, Tom, and he uses the word God. God gives us instructions on the box of human being. And we are not operating according to the instructions on the box. And those instructions are the same instructions that you see in nature. Connected. That's why Emerson wrote the essay, Compensation. Everything is a compensation. There's a full tide here. You know the saying? That was a saying I wanted to remember, Harold. A tide rises, a high tide rises all boats. No, it doesn't. What about the tide across the sea? Those boats are receding, right? So there is always ebb and flow. Everything we take from here, something gets richer, something gets less. We invent the car, we lose the use of our feet, right? The only thing with no compensation is love. Only love multiplies, Emerson says. I agree. Because love is how things work. It's the operating manual that Desmond Tutu was talking about. And until we get that, and we already know it, you know it deep in your DNA, because every time you share something at Google, we were talking about China and how you want that to be more open, and the dialogue there and the information to be more open. That's love, and you know it. And so you applaud when your leaders, Larry and Sergey, come and say, we want to be more open. And you feel it, because it's so deeply in you. Your operating manual is in you.
Hi, I'm Johnny, and so you talk about Google here and where everything is. There's lack of scarcity, and we're kind of in a bubble of the world, and you likewise in Hollywood is kind of in a bubble. And I would even argue that the U.S., the worst situation in the U.S. is far better than a lot of other situations outside the country. And, with the lack of scarcity in all of our environments, right? How do you differentiate between that and people that are actually struggling to survive and basically pushing the message of collaboration when there's just not enough to go around in that society or that group?
Be a little more clear about your question, because I'm not quite clear on what I want to address.
No, I think what I'm saying is that at Google it's very easy to say we should all collaborate. There's no competition in terms of food. We walk 100 feet, there's food. There's we walk 10 feet and there's something else. And likewise in the U.S., right? There's grocery stores and there's availability of.
So we have a relative abundance here in the U.S. and
how do you
What do you mean by differentiate?
Well, how do you push the message of collaboration to people that don't have the abundance of?
The same way you push every message, which is to be the thing that you wish to see in the world. That's the whole simple message that Gandhi preached. It's what I hope I impart here. Be it. I just heard Warren Buffett did a great thing, because I've spoken of it as a bit of an insane thing. Warren Buffett stood in the press recently and said, I have all this extra resources. I want to help. Why doesn't the government tax me more? And I thought, that's insane. Why don't you just help? Why are you waiting for the government to tell you to be good? Be good. As Aristotle said, follow the action of good and happiness is the right outcome. So be good. I heard he just did that. I've got to find out if it's true. I think I'll Google it. But I heard he just did that, which is wonderful. That's extraordinary. He felt that he had something to share. He didn't wait for somebody to make him share it, and he shared it. So he is becoming the message he wishes to see in the world. So if you want a more collaborative world, a more equitable world, that's why I want to disassemble. I am a very imperfect work in progress. I believe the principles that animate me are perfect. I hope that I am in touch with the principles that have animated others. I hope that they animate me. That's my hope. But so you can look at my life and see imperfection, but I am whittling away my resources because I want to be more equitable. I want to be more equitable. So I must be more equitable in my dealings. Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Someone else has a mic. Then we'll go in the back.
Okay. Hi, I'm Joe. So in my limited experience, when you're trying to change people's perspectives and increase awareness, there's really nothing that can substitute direct experience. Like if they experience that tragedy themselves, and that's your story as well. Do you ever take a step back and be like, why did it take me to have so much taken away to finally be aware of what something is wrong? And did you take that approach when you started filming and kind of understand that for many of us who don't experience such bad, tragedies, to kind of put life into perspective, you can only tell someone so much before they actually go through it, and then they realize it's true. So,
let me be clear about something. The accident and facing my own death did not in any way shift my life in terms of my view on resources and the generosity I wanted or didn't want to inhabit me. I had been on that path for years. After I did Liar Liar in 1995 or 6, I sat down with a dear friend and said, this doesn't feel right. That's when the money started coming. And I said, there's something not good about this. It doesn't feel right. I feel like it should flow back. No, keep it. And I bought into it. But I began to shift very early. What the concussion did and facing my own death did was give me the courage to talk about it. So for 10 years, I was already in the mobile home park, which is a beautiful place. The message for me is not necessarily austerity for austerity's sake, but a reasonable life. What's enough for you? I love to surf. I'm near the beach. I love the mountains. They're right behind me. I want everyone to have what they love and are passionate about. I think that's how we beam. So, yes, you're right. When we experience something personally, of course, we are more compelled and propelled into action. However, we do have a connective relationship with others, and we do look to others to say, hey, what do you know? What do you know? And so others, and through their energy, offer their experience and their stories, and that can shift us as well. We don't all have to have a concussion and a near-death experience.
Oh. Yeah, the functioning mic now.
Hi, my name is Mario. Thank you for coming. In parentheses, I remember I grew up in Mexico, and I grew up in a Protestant family and never really got it. But one day I prayed, said, God, I have hard heart. Why don't you give me a way that I can hear? And somehow I went to the bathroom and I thought, oh, I think that mess have arrived, like coming to Google and hearing you. Just kind of that it predisposed me to really hear and make a change. But I just wanted to share a testimony. The question is, I wonder if it is because of ego.
I'm sorry you're going out there because of. So we need to get some tech people in here.
Either ego or trying or wanted to play that I somehow I'm not happy because I feel I'm not loving enough, and maybe it's because achievement. That I'm not loving enough, I'm not doing enough. So the message I took from like the tree doesn't take enough. It only takes what it needs. So I got that part. But when it comes to give, I wonder what's your view on this? Shall we just give until I don't know how much I need to give or under which criteria. And I somehow feel like I need to give a lot in order to be happy, or I need to sacrifice myself. I don't know the natural amount of giving. Then I want to comment on that.
My comment on that is, first of all, thank you, brother. You've already given to me with your journey and your beautiful spirit that seeks to be of service. My view on giving is that you follow the beauty, and that is this still on? Yeah. And I heard you were raised Protestant, as I said. I was raised Catholic, and there's a Catholic mentality that I'm always working to rid myself, to shed, and that is this feeling of guilt. I don't think we're to feel this feeling of guilt and that I should. The nuns say don't should on yourself, right? So if you should on yourself, you create an energy, oh, I should have been better, oh, I should have been more loving, I should have been more generous. That creates an energy, a tension of lack that can actually prevent you from being more loving. Just follow your heart. So give a little. Wow, that felt great. I gave a bike to a kid once, and that felt fantastic. One of my crew members. And then I did a crazy thing. I said, I wonder if, because she couldn't afford a bike. And I said, well, I wonder if any of my other crew members would like a bike. And by the way, if I give money, it is so not about money. You give in a moment. You give in a moment of grace. So it's not about money. I had money to give. So I asked my other crew members, who else would like a bike? I thought maybe 20 would pipe up. 400 crew members out of 400 crew members said, me. So I gave away 400 bikes. And the feeling was beautiful because I saw people on the weekends enjoying nature, getting out into the beautiful countryside. We're from LA, we were in Virginia at the time. I saw this elevation and I felt so blessed to be a part of it. So now I give my class bikes. I teach a class at Pepperdine and I give them a bike, not to be Oprah. It's not like today's a refrigerator, we're going to Australia, oh my God. No, I give them a bike because I want to remind them what I think you already know so well is to remain childlike. Even though the world is saying get serious with your life, if you do not remain childlike, as some of the mystics have said, you shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. So I followed that joy and now I give bikes. We gave them to some inner city kids. I once freed a slave. What? Freed a slave? There's 27 million slaves in the world today. What? We ended slavery in 1865. Aha, we didn't, because we didn't end the mentality that creates slavery, which is the commoditization of everything, that intellectual property that I talked about. This is what creates slavery. Hey, if I can commoditize the human body, which is a little operation from the best guy should cost $100,000, from a not so good guy, $10,000. Commoditization. Why not commoditize the whole human body? It's the same mentality gone askew, but it comes from the same mentality. Does that make sense to you? So give and then follow the beauty. So anyway, I freed a slave and I wanted to say that now I've freed others with Harold and our foundation. We've been able to free a village, I believe it was in, the village was in southern India. And we freed a couple hundred people. There's a program that goes in and they pull them out of slavery and trafficking, then they re-educate them, they reintroduce them to their families. And there are people walking free, and it's because of all of us, because whatever resources come to us, we spit back, we share back with the world. And so we follow that bliss. I've met these people. I've seen the pictures of the kids being driven away. There's not a product in the world that I would want to buy more than seeing the face of that child who's driving away free for the first time since he was 3 years old and captured. So I follow that. So I encourage you to follow that. Whatever makes your heart open and expand and you'll feel a tear and a smile. You know, it's not just all the joy we freed a child, it's the tear that others may be suffering. And how do I do what I can to connect?
My name is Veena. It was a great movie. Thank you, and thanks for coming. I have a lot of questions, but picking off of the question that was just asked, in my day-to-day life, I wonder at what point do I stop giving? And I'm repeating the same question, but see that on the other side, it's not as appreciated or valued or even acknowledged. Somewhere in me, it burns. I feel like
what burns that you're not?
It burns that I'm able to I'm able to remove the boundary of this is mine, and I'm able to step outside of the boundary, and there's not even an eye blinking at that thought, right? Like no need for thanks, no need for coming back with the same action, but at least just the thought that, oh, she did this. I continue to do what I do, but I question myself. I'm like, I should not feel this way. I'm not gonna have that thankfulness or that thoughtfulness, and that's okay. But intrinsically, do you believe it's a human behavior that when on the other side it's not appreciated or acknowledged, and is that okay?
Well, I think that there's something that's actually natural, because what I think you're really reaching for is you don't necessarily want to be thanked. I don't think it's that you want to be, correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't want somebody to go, oh, you're such a wonderful person. You want to know that the gift, the giving, reached its source. To see the child's eyes light up. He didn't need to thank me. The thanks was in the eyes. I think that's what you're reaching for, that there is some understanding that this moment has had a connection.
Yeah, that's right. At a child, right, it's different because the other end is not able to do it on their own, so you're doing it. But in cases where it's colleagues or friends or roommates or spouses, they are equally capable of giving back. But at the same time, you see that they are not even thinking about it.
Yes. Well, this is a challenge for all of us, but we are called to continue to be giving. You said you don't know when to stop giving. You don't ever stop giving. Even when you're giving to yourself because you need rest, you need perspective, you need a moment, you never stop giving. It's all a gift. And you don't give to change people. That's what I think your tension may be. You give, and then that roommate doesn't get it or that parent doesn't get it. No, that's giving to change. You give, you share, and what gets in, gets in. And you never know. You guys have this amazing thing where the world, there's beams of light coming out wherever Google is being searched. I think that's going to be our human story, that you have no idea what beams of light you sent out that you never were aware of. How many people may have seen this film that I'm not aware of? How many people may be touched by an act that you were not necessarily thanked for, but you affected somebody, you weren't aware it got in, and they affected somebody else? That's that beam of light. I think they're happening all around us. So you give in faith. You give because, as Aristotle said, follow the good.
Hi, my name is Lynn, and I love the movie. I thought it was wonderful. I'm super excited. I'm going to spread it. It's going to happen.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
This is Google. Spread the freaking thing. Can we not spread it?
Absolutely.
All the proceeds are going to causes, so spread.
What I thought was most interesting about it was it's not like the concept of loving people and having that. That's not new. That's been around. Everyone's talked about that before. What I think is new and interesting is the way that you're talking about it and the communication and the language, the narrative that you're using to describe that. And I think you are in a unique position as someone who created characters in a narrative such as like Ace Ventura, that maybe it's more approachable to maybe more of a mass audience because they're like, well, he thought, Jim Carrey was funny. I think Jim Carrey's funny. I don't know. But my question is more about when do you use these different communication styles? I would certainly expect some people to completely dismiss a lot of what you might say sometimes when they think it's too out there, or almost hurt by kind of like the hippy dippy movement where they think, oh, he must be just like hallucinating something rather than actually speaking truth. So you use science, you use humor, you use film to communicate this message. And do you ever find yourself tailoring your message or tailoring your language to audiences, and in order to make more of an impact, in order to really grab on to that, the main concept, which is love? So
yes, all the time. But I don't see that as a downside. Emerson said, if you find nothing but the commonality that it rains on both you and your adversary, find that commonality. So I need to find out what it is that grabs you. I'm an entertainer, right? I knew when we did Bruce Almighty, a lot of ideas about spirituality, prayer, the energy we put out, love. But I knew that if it wasn't insanely funny, nobody would see it. So I know that humor is hardwired in us. It's a trait that's evolved. So I like to reach into that trait. It's, you know what a belly laugh is? It literally makes you vulnerable because you get hit in the gut. When you get hit in the gut, you get vulnerable, and then you can drop a seed. So I do it all the time. Harold and I are pitching a talk show to MTV. I've been with Oprah for a long time, but I think we may not be on the Oprah Winfrey Network, and we may actually go on MTV. They want to do talk now. So the conversation is now exactly what you said. How do ideas like this get in to a youth culture that's addicted to the Jersey Shore, right? To Teen Mom 2. And we find the commonality, and then we get in. So we make them laugh. We do something that's visually exciting to them, right? But we say there's a principle behind this, guys. There's a reason that we put this on. You see that silly stunt you love, the jackass that made you go, ooh, that's actually your vagus nerve firing because you are hardwired to connect to someone. You actually felt that kick in the nuts. You felt it in your own, and if you don't have them, you felt it somewhere down there. So we can use that to connect and say that there's a larger story that you're not being taught, that you are connected, that you're not to be separate. That's in your biology. So you're very perceptive. Join us on our talk show, please. All right, I think, how are we doing on the time, Harold? Are we good? A couple more minutes and we're done. And then you're back to, it's been, 45 minutes since you've eaten. I mean, my goodness. Whew. By the way, so smart. There's so many things so smart at this company. It just is, I encourage you to expand that wisdom. Expand it. It's so smart when you look at the food and you're saying, like, eat different, rotate your diet and eat organic. And you were saying, Cliff, how you're actually going to places now and asking them to use organic products. And it's fantastic.
Hey. Hi. My name is Clarissa. How are you doing today? Thanks so much for coming.
Oh, thank you, Clarissa. I'm doing very well. How are you? Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Sorry about that. My question is, what do you think the tipping point is to affect change on a large-scale level? And if we look at food as an example, there's a huge organic movement here in California. But, if I want to eat an organic mango, it's going to cost $5. Or if I want to help someone, it's going to cost me $5 to buy an organic mango and give it to somebody. And what do we do to counter other external forces of the use of pesticides and, different farming practices that are not organic? And related to this also is, maybe this is a function of me being from New York. I have a fear of if I help someone that I don't know, I might get, robbed or killed or raped. Or what do I do as an individual to counter these external and internal forces, if this makes sense?
Wow. Where am I at Google? First of all, let me answer you. There's a couple questions in there, and I'm tempted to give the shortest answer that I can give. You said, what is the tipping point for these changes? And I think the tipping point is you. You, very specifically, you. You. Do you know what I mean by that? Yes. So you want to eat more organic. So you can't go somewhere and get a reasonably priced organic smoothie or apple from the store. What does a person do when they're faced with that? They can blog about it, talk to the produce manager, look online, Google, where can I find something? And when enough of you do that, a revolution happens. We all know the word love is buried inside revolution, but you have to turn it around. So when you do that, and then you add, and you and I, Egypt happens. You already have the recipe here. You've cooked it. You've helped the world in revolution. Look at the principle and be the principle. I don't even know what your second question was. I forgot. I know it was something, but there's enough to chew on there.
So we have time for one final question.
We have time for one final question.
And I win that privilege.
Hi, Jennifer.
I wanted to make a couple comments about the film. First of all, I thought the little pictogram about the Indian village and the hunter was just amazing. I mean, it was very simple. That's something we could show to elementary school kids. Just amazing. And it's something people can walk away with and really stick in your gut in terms of understanding that kind of
Before
idea.
you go on, can I ask you about that?
Sure.
So does everybody remember what she's talking about in the movie? There's a hunter that said, wait a second, I'm the best hunter. Do you see how I am also that hunter? Do you see how many of us are also that hunter? I'm the best comedy director, like of the 90s anyway, quote unquote, because of the grosses. I deserve more. Okay, I want to make sure that it's relatable, because that really wasn't a tribe about a native culture. That was a tribe about us and me. Okay.
And that's why I said elementary school kids should watch that. My second comment about the film was how you, in there, interspersed commentary about economy and how we've really kind of taken the idea of using economy to serve the greater good to now it becoming some, money play and people fighting to be on top, which kind of connects to that tribe example. But my question to you is, so given your success in Hollywood and how that has really kind of given you this opportunity to spread this word about love and sharing and all these great things, what's your philosophy about Hollywood and how do you balance that very fine line? Because it sounds like you're still somewhat involved in media and you're talking about the MTV thing. How do you get that balance right so that you're adding value and bringing good media to the world, but also not getting sucked kind of into that, blitzy money Hollywood vortex?
Well, I happen to love my friends in Hollywood, even though they're crazy. I love them, and I'm in dialogue with them, and I don't try to change them. Many have responded to this film. I don't mind naming names. Courtney Cox is a dear friend, flipped over the movie. Brian Grazer, who's now producing the Academy Awards, he's Ron Howard's partner, flipped over the movie. And they're just like you and I. They're artists. They're creators. They were raised in the same culture I'm raised in, and something got stirred up. So I just dialogue with them and live, and don't say, why do you live in this big house? So many people I think, well, you shouldn't live in that big house. That's what the movie's about. No, it's not. It's what's true for you. What does your heart tell you? There may be artistry, community, something about the place where you're living. I was a single guy. I didn't need what I had, and I moved from it. What's true for you? So I judge none of them. I share with all of them. And as far as what I want to put out, I'm only going to put out what I want to put out. And if that means starvation, I will starve. I would much rather feed my soul than my body. My body's had enough. I'll feed the soul. So I'm simply going to put out what everybody thinks I'm nuts. I mean, I was the first one to move into a quote-unquote trailer park. This is an expensive trailer park. I want to be very clear because the headlines are, moves to a trailer park. If you came to where we lived, you go, geez, I'd live here. It's beautiful, but it was out of the paradigm, right? I was looking at $20 million homes, and these were one to 200,000. What? Is he crazy? You don't even own the land, and you have to live with normal people. Retired police officers and teachers. What? That's why we put up walls and fences, to not see them, right? And I found such beauty there that many of my friends in show business, there's an agent there, a huge director who I won't name, has moved in. We have a community of 6 or 8 families that have moved in because they see the beauty of what this is. So I just continue to live what, to me, as I said to you, feels expansive. And so I encourage all of you, I think you're all here for a reason, besides a nap. I saw the napping pods. You don't have to come here to nap. I think you're here for a reason. So whatever this film, however it touched you and moved you, I hope it at least has opened you up to the idea that maybe there's more conversation to be had at Google, to how Google can actually break down whatever walls, the bubble we've created here, or whatever bubble exists, and spread this. Again, not just the information, but I kept digging to Cliff. What's the philosophy? And your founders have they're onto something. And I think we just need to look in every drawer and say, is it in that drawer? Is it in that drawer? Wait a second, here's a drawer that doesn't look like it's in. How do we get it in there? You guys are a glimpse at our future. You're a glimpse at our future. But while we sit on the cushion of advantage, let's not fall asleep, right? Let's always be looking to see how can we expand this so that others can share in the bounty. Because there's absolutely, Gandhi said it, so many of our leaders, there's plenty for the need. There's not enough for the greed.
So, on that note, Tom, thank you very much for speaking at Google and for showing us what's right in the world.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Greg. Thanks for having us.